Hello and welcome to episode number 34 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, crochet, apparently, lately. All the crafts that I like to do. So thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot that you take some time out of your day and spend it with me. Thank you for that. And also thanks for all the lovely comments that I had on last week's episode. It's very nice to hear how everyone is experiencing this October, I guess, because the weather around the globe is, all over the place. I guess that makes sense because it's literally all over the place. Anyway, let's get into the regular content of this episode. And you guys, I finished my Dusala cardigan and I am so incredibly happy with it. I think the sleeves could have been a little bit longer. I think that's entirely on me. I was so happy just to have it finished at some point. Not that I didn't like knitting it, but I just wanted it finished. I wanted to wear this cardigan. So and I'm really happy with how it looks. I'm not sure if I can really show you guys what it looks like. So anyway, so here it is, and I'm so happy with it. I finished knitting bit on last Sunday, as I thought I would, on the weekend, but I still needed to sew on a lot of buttons. There's I think 10 buttons on this cardigan, and it took a while to put them in place, even though I already had the button band attached, so I had a very clear indication of where the buttons needed to go. Sewing on buttons, really, it's just not my favorite thing to do, but I'm really happy with the buttons, with the size of them, and how the entire cardigan comes together, because if I open a button, then it immediately pulls away. Not that it's very tight or anything, but it has a tendency to roll a little bit, this cardigan. So this yarn is hand spun. I spun this over the course of the last year. In fact, I purchased a fiber on Knit and Knot Festival that I visited last week. Well, I also went to the version 1 year ago, and there I purchased some fiber, and then I spun this yarn with it. I do have 2 other minor cakes of it, and I still have my swatch, and I still have 120 grams left over out of the 400 grams of fiber that I purchased, so I used less than 300 grams, which makes me really happy because I also have this gorgeous yarn here, this pink yarn in the background that I purchased from Lily Pond Yarns with the intent of making a cardigan with it at some point, and I did not realize this, but I thought the meterage of it would be slightly longer than it is. There's nothing wrong with the meterage, it's still a fingering weight sock yarn, but I think it's 380 meters instead of 400 to 420 meters, which I somehow had in my head that it would be. So I was fearing can I make a cardigan with that? And now I think, this one worked out. Maybe it's going to be short sleeve, but it's definitely going to be a full length cardigan. So I think I'm good there. So who knows? Might be one of the next projects. But then again, I have so many things that I want to knit. It's difficult to pick sometimes. And a cardigan is still a bit more of an involved project. And now that I'm working full time, I find myself, not always having that much time to work on a project that needs a little bit more focus. Also, I want to combine this yarn with the Japanese knitting stitch Bible, so it's gonna be interesting. Anyway, so That was the Dusala cardigan, which is a pattern by Osa Tricosa from this book, the cigarette book. I can show you the picture of the cardigan, but now you can see the finished cardigan, so I don't think that makes much sense at this point. I did have a few alterations, but mostly the alterations that I did were like a little bit of shifting between sizes, because my bust is very small compared to you know, my hip size, and apparently also my shoulder width is one size bigger than my bust size. Yay. I always thought that my entire upper body was smaller, but no, it's just my bust. And another thing that I changed was making the entire cardigan out of one color, whereas it is supposed to have two different contrast colors for the button bands, but I wanted to use hand spun, and I think the cardigan looks pretty with a contrast color button band, but I just wanted to use my hand spun, and I do not have another color of hand spun that would go very nicely with this color, so yeah. Here it is. And I'm really happy with it. Anyway, so that's not all that I've been doing this week, because you guys, I've been working, so I've been commuting, and I had a pair of commuter socks on needles. So I had shown you this one last week already, because this one was finished last week, and then I had started the toe of the second one, which really was still in the cast on bit, so I didn't bother to put in a progress keeper, because I felt like, yeah, whether it was here or here doesn't really matter. But the second sock is also finished, and I'm not really happy with what happened here, but you know, the crazy transition from one color to another, and I know that there's a lot of things that I could have done to prevent this, like putting in a contrast color heel, but I also didn't want to put in a contrast color heel, especially because I didn't do so on the last one. And on this one, the transition is, well, you can still see it. There is a transition line here, but it's not as clearly visible as here. Also, the socks stripe in opposite directions. Well, anyway, I think my boyfriend will like wearing them, but he might not bring them to work, so weekend socks then, I guess. But then again, it was at least a fun experiment to you know, knit the socks with ribbing, and they look so incredibly tiny now, but they fit. They fit him, and he has larger feet than me, so yeah, you can kind of see when I put in my hand that it will just stretch out, and also follow the shape of my hand here quite well, so that's really nice. So I think they might be very nice fitting, but we'll see how much he'll actually wear them. So this socks, I knit them out of Scheepjes in Victa color, so that's this yarn. I don't know if you can get it anywhere outside of the Netherlands, but because I think it's a Dutch brand, but here it says Farbe, which is German, so I'm not really sure actually. It sounds Dutch. So yeah, 2 finished objects this week. I'm quite happy with that. So I finished these on well, I wanted to finish these on my local knit group, because this is yarn that I purchased at my local yarn store, Bloemendal Wol and More, I think it's called, but especially the first part is important, I think. So I purchased the yarn there, and I took my blanket with me to knit on there, but I didn't. I just didn't knit on the blanket there. Don't know why, just didn't. And at the end of the evening, I was like 10-ish rows away from finishing, so and usually when I come back from the knit group, I'm just tired, and I know that I need to wake up early in the morning to be at work in time the next day, but I felt I'm so close, and also with the skin not entirely recovered, I better not swim in the morning, so I could sleep in a little bit compared to usual. So I just stayed up and finished the sock because I just wanted it finished. Finished for me means like finished the knitting bit, but weaving in the ends can take a while with me. Anyway, so yeah, then there is another project that I have been working on this week, and you haven't seen this one yet because I cast it on this week. And my boyfriend, when he is gaming and sitting behind his computer, he gets like very cold hands. And this is kind of annoying for him, but it's also annoying for me because then if he cuddles me, it's just so cold, you know, like keep your cold hands away from me. So he asked me to make some like fingerless mitts for while gaming. So I pulled out this yarn, which I think is called Shera Andina Alpaca. No, it's from Ariafil and it's called Shera Andina. So I can't really remember where it's from, but I knit a pair of mittens for, well, kind of for his mom, not for his mom. They were for the neighbor of his mom, but and I combined it with this yarn. And this is Rowan Alpaca, I think. The label must be somewhere, but I don't know where. So I'm pretty sure this is Rowan, but I'm not really sure if the yarn type is Alpaca. They are not exactly the same weight, but they are both Alpaca yarns, and I knit a pair of mittens for the neighbor of my boyfriend's parents with it because she was in a bad state at that time, and she was bound to a wheelchair, and she would get very cold hands when going outside, and and she wasn't able to move much anymore. So I just wanted to have a very warm pair of mittens for her, and I know that she has been a knitter in the past because of her health situation. She couldn't knit anymore as she couldn't do a lot of things anymore. She has passed away by now, so my boyfriend's mom has confiscated the mittens again when she passed away, and apparently she is using them now. But so I started knitting a cuff. I did a tubular cast on and then just knit 10 rows. Then I ran out of the leftover bit of yarn that I still had from the mittens that I knit before, so I knit another pair of mittens out of these yarns. So that's why I have like a full skein of this one, but also the very tiny skein that I just showed you but dropped on the floor, so I can't be bothered to pick it up and show you guys, because you know it'll stay on the floor. It's fine. And I just alternated skeins a bit for the cuff, like to create some striping effect. And now I am knitting a bit of color work, but I'm just one row in, so you can't really see anything of the color work yet. Well, that will have to be something for the future then, I guess. But gamer gloves for my boyfriend. Who knew that you would need gloves to sit behind your computer? But you know, it's fine. So there is one more project that has received some love this week, and it is my Sophie's Universe blanket. So I have been crocheting as well, and here it is. So it's starting to turn a little bit more square, which is fun. I'm a bit sad that some of the colors, like this white this creamy blue, pink, purple speckled color is not popping more than it does, but probably should have looked at the pictures, then I could have seen that it would not be very visible, because this is hand-dyed yarn from Bloemendal Wol, who have stopped dyeing, unfortunately, I think earlier this year. And then there's some Regia, the blue yarn, and then there's this also hand-dyed yarn, this orange and yellow and pink. Purchased that in Austria, and I think it's from Bloemendal Wol. I have a list of all the yarns that I've used for this project on my Ravelry page, so couldn't be bothered to link to all the yarns specifically, but I've made a list of all the yarns and the colorways that I've used, not dye-lots, because I don't think dye-lots are very interesting. If someone would want, for some reason, to make the exact same blanket, I don't think you would even be able to find the same dye-lot. You probably wouldn't even be able to find all the yarns, but then at least you would know what it is. Also, all these yarns are special to me because I've knit something with them in the past. They are just leftovers bits, and I don't think they couldn't possibly mean anything to someone else, or unless someone else just happened to have picked all of the same colors and yarns in the past, or would knit socks or something with them now. I think I've knit socks with all of these yarns except for the pink, orange, yellow bit that's on the outside now. I think I used that one for a shawl, which was a test knit for a friend. And I really didn't really like the look of this yarn in that shawl. It was just a bit too crazy changing colors, but I really like the pop of colors in this blanket, so here it's really in its place, so I'm really happy that I have it. Last week I thought I don't have any leftover bits of yarn anymore, so I need to knit some more socks to have more leftovers to put in the blanket, but and I thought, but wait a minute, I do have that pair of socks. Where's my leftover bit of that one? And that pair? And that pair? And where's all my leftover yarn? So turned out I had stashed some of it away in crazy places. I also found one of the yarns that I want to use next, which is from my hand-dyed sock yarn. How could I have forgotten about my own hand-dyed sock yarn? But it turned out to be in the basket behind me, because that's where all my hand-dyed yarns are. So it kind of makes sense that it was there, but it wasn't with all the other leftover bits. So that's why it's not in there already. But I'm quite happy with how it's coming along. I must say, in the beginning the sections were quite small and fast, and they are becoming quite large, so they just take a while to crochet, which is also why I didn't finish the section this week. But that's okay, I don't need to finish this blanket in 20 weeks. 20 weeks is already quite long, but I can take as long as I like. So that's I think that's all the projects that I've worked on this week, but I do want to draw attention to another project, which has to do with the more than one craft along that I'm hosting, because I like to do more than one craft in a project, or for a project. So I wanted to encourage you a little bit to do more than one craft as well. So for instance, this cardigan that I'm wearing now, I hand spun the yarn and then I knit it. So that's 2 crafts for one project, so more than one craft. But there's also the hand dyeing and then knitting with it, or maybe sewing with some embroidery on top of it, or whatever. There's so many possibilities. So there is a more than one craft along going on, and it is running till the end of this month, so not that long anymore. So if you have any projects that you are working on that have a crochet edge on a knitted garment, or maybe a knitted ribbing and then a crochet hat or whatever, just enter them and have a chance to, win a prize at the end of the month. And I still don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm pretty sure that it's probably gonna be some hand-dyed yarn. Not one of the ones behind me here, but because I have some more luxurious base of yarn that I want to dye on, and I want to try it fast, so or soon. So I think that's gonna be a thing, and one of my handmade projects and bags. So to keep you crafting, I guess. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Don't forget, if you haven't checked out last week's episode, there is a 50 subscriber giveaway. So if you want to enter in that, you need to comment on last week's podcast episode, not on this one. Of course, you are allowed to comment anything on this week's podcast as well. But for prizes, I will look at last week's episode, and I will draw prizes in 2 weeks, because next week my sister is gonna stay over because she has to work in Eindhoven, where I live, and my boyfriend will be away. So I will be drawing prizes for that giveaway in 2 weeks, which is probably also gonna be the same episode when I draw prizes for the More Than One Craft Along. So at this point there's only one person who entered, so she's gonna win if you guys don't enter, which I guess she doesn't mind, so Anyway, so yeah, I hope you guys all have a lovely week. Enjoy the fall with all the fruits and the lovely colors and everything that I've heard of last week, and I hope to see you again next week. So but next week, because my sister is staying over, I might be a little bit late with the podcast, so it might even be on Sunday. Who knows? Anyway, so I hope to see you guys next week.